Hi Harshvardhan, how are you?
Hi, Alumni. Pleasure to be here on your platform at Story.
Yeah, Story and I are extremely excited to have you over here. So while we were selecting people for the interview series, your name was also recommended by two people. And that's how we reached out to you and got to know about you and everything. So just wanted to tell you that you are doing some commendable work, that people not just know you or just praise you in front of you, but also behind you, which is a great achievement. Today, I'm going to dig into your journey and understand what goes behind the scenes of being Harshvardhan. So are you ready?
Absolutely. Let's go.
Great. So let's get started. My first question is, I need to know your entire journey after graduation, all the twists, turns, good things, bad things, like a quick summary so that our viewers can be on the same page and listen to the interview ahead in a more mindful way, and they know the story behind the scenes and everything.
Yeah. Absolutely. So I think while I was doing my graduation, I was particularly interested in engineering as a field. And hence I pursued my Bachelor's of Technology in Computer Science Engineering, went on to work with Accenture Technology Solutions, worked for a US energy utilities major. But that's when I realized that I need to continue the learning curve and did my formal full-time MBA from Symbiosis into Business Management. That's when, in a very consumer-centric way, my initial learnings happened. My first stint was with ITC, revamping sales and distribution network for their packaged snack food category, Bingo, and eventually took it to other FMCG companies, spending 5 years in Godrej, heading trade marketing function, launching newer categories, leading the new product innovation categories function. And then I thought after those 5 years, it's a good time to deep dive into a startup ecosystem, take all those learnings and build something from scratch for industry-wide impact. And that's when I joined in shopcruise.com, just at pre-series A. We were around 300 people. Next 3 years, very exhilarating journey. We were around 1,300 people, became India's 5th biggest unicorn, India's largest marketplace. Led on to that journey to disrupt retail marketplace at DLF, one of the biggest shopping malls in the country, one of the biggest digital transformation stories so far in modern retail. And currently I'm working towards something that has been really satisfying in the pandemic, is enabling the groceries availability and access across the country to consumers, which has been one of the most essential categories during pandemic at Spencer's Retail and Nature's Basket. So in a nutshell, I've been a consumer technology-led leader, leveraging technology, solving consumer-centric problem statements throughout my journey.
Wow. My next question has to be this. Opportunity after opportunity, I saw that you chose the right startups and everything. And it can be by luck or by research. Now, when I was talking to a friend in the morning, he told me I would never work with a founder who is not ambitious, at least at the outlook of it. I would rather work with a company which can be the next Freshworks or Amazon or something like that, right? So all these career decisions that you've taken, all the switches and jobs that you have taken, did you have any mindset behind it, or was it that it was coming your way and you took it, or did you research, or yeah?
Okay, so let me confess at the outset itself, Unnati. I think it's equally difficult for every professional to really time their next moves. You can always see that in hindsight when you see somebody else's journey. But for somebody, and even for me, while you are there is a lot of self-doubt. There's a lot of doubt that you would have on a lot of your moves. And there is a lot of bigger picture you may not be able to see while you are doing something, which I very strongly believe in. But the sheer consistency with which you go on to do something gets you your next view or next vision. So very simplistically, we would always want to make it really predictable, saying that I would want to time my next move and I want to get to a certain position. But that really does not come true. Like to make a decision to be at DLF, taking a very audacious move to disrupt shopping malls, a $3.5 billion kind of thing, leveraging IoT, ML, launching their first app grounds up, not being a technology company at heart, was a difficult decision for me because I had to The day I joined DLF, I had to put down an Amazon offer after 16 interviews. So, which essentially means that you may have a lot of things to really question about. Until next 1-2 years, you may not be able to see where we're moving. But in hindsight, I think being consistent in what you're doing, having a strong belief that what value you're adding on will eventually show you your next path is something that I've followed. And hence, I understand that dilemma that yes, you would want to ideally move in a certain way, but that may not always be true.
Got it. Makes sense. And thank you so much for being honest over there. I really thought you've cracked the cheat code. I wanted to get it out of you. All right. So, what's the biggest, highlight of the career till now? Like, I remember getting a raise and then leaving my job and then working as a freelance consultant and then growing several folds. Like, I remember while filing the ITR for 2019 and filing it for 2020, I saw that exponential growth graph in the earnings and everything. So that was my high point. Like, I observed it on papers that I've grown monetarily. So that was my high. And I always will remember watching that idea and I'm like, oh my God, I did something. So what was your high point? Like, you'll always remember it, or probably we'll see it in your biography or something.
I think one of the most satisfying things which I see as a high point, one is the ability and opportunity which I would have got to make an impact which pushes the boundaries of the industry. Something which was unheard of, like 3 years before when I was at shopcruise.com. I think building a marketplace and having 5 lakh sellers and giving them the ability to reach out to the hinterlands of the country, which was only an opportunity available to modern retail and bigger brands.
Yeah.
And I think when you grow the entire industry and impact, especially the small, medium enterprises, and when you get a feedback from them, I think that became very satisfying, becomes a high point. I consider that. Second, even at DLF, I think leveraging technology in a non-technology traditional form, which nobody would associate. Most people would look at the companies at Silicon Valley doing something great in technology.
Yeah.
But using that to elevate the experience of consumers across shopping malls, I think that brought a lot of satisfaction and high point. And I think in all these roles, and even now, I think there's been tremendous move. Both the organizations, Spencer's Retail and Nature's Basket, have become significantly omnichannel, which means that rather than just consumers coming to stores, it's the convenience of doorstep delivery happening at more than 100 million deliveries that would have happened in past year. So I think getting that thing solved for consumers, solving a problem statement, that would have consistently given a high point to me in particular. I think that goes beyond designations. That goes beyond the monetary part of it, because somewhere you are trying to add more value to an ecosystem, but with whatever skills you bring on the table, and that becomes a high point.
Got it. And in an answer before, you mentioned that you try solve consumer-centric problems by leveraging technology. What's the recent problem or the recent change that you've seen in the retail industry? Like I come from a very non-technology background, and I think Milk Basket just changed the equation for my mom. She was so happy that anything that she orders before 12 was getting delivered by morning 7, and there was no minimum order value or anything, and it was just flawlessly done. And the pandemic, they were lifesavers during the pandemic. So but that's how we see it from the outside. From the inside, where do you think this industry is going towards?
I think globally and specifically in India, India's retail industry is estimated to be around 1.3 trillion. And if you look at it in last 2 decades, 2 big waves have been there. One is the modern retail, which is the big box retailers of the country, shopping malls, etc. Organized retail is around 9 to 10%. And e-commerce, even post the acceleration of pandemic, is still in single digits, 4.5%, 5% if you include one ancillary part of that. So 85% of the retail there is to get disrupted. It is still not even being touched. So we are at the tip of the iceberg. There's a lot that we would see in terms of transformations. India's large part of economic growth on the other side is very strongly driven by 61 million micro, small, and medium enterprises in the country, which has been fueling also the urbanization in census towns. So in last decade, if you see, the population of Mumbai, Chennai, or the million plus cities did not grow by 30%, but the urbanization 33% was because tier one towns, or census towns more precisely, they went on to a great degree of consumption and urbanization. So at the heart of retail, and if you look at very simplistically, retail, it has been one of the most oldest industries globally. Anything that you would do in a very primitive society is to go on and sell goods to people, solve for distribution, solve for access. Digital transformation has just started. Three big trends essentially would be D2C brands will see a big flip in next couple of years. It's almost $100 billion market, which means that the confidence that we have in a small seller, in a small entrepreneur also, to be able to make his own products, launch his own website, and reach out directly to consumers is unprecedented. So that is a big move and big trend that will take place. The second big trend, which I say is the advent and the rise of phygital. Now, phygital is nothing but a portmanteau of physical and digital, which means that from a consumer standpoint, Unnati is spending equal time in physical ecosystem as she's doing on her mobile, etc. And hence, for brands to think phygital, which is basically be at the cusp of both physical and digital ecosystems, is a big wave that would drive the future of retail. And thirdly, I think India's middle class is no longer a middle class. It's let me call it the class which pushes innovation in our country. And I think that is a big trend, right from disruption in payments, disruption in how we consume content in media, how we are looking to connect consumers with newer products, subscriptions, etc., including retail. I think it's phenomenal. And this is something that will continue to go, which is basically newer opportunities for the Gen Zs and our coming generations in terms of what they could build in the country in terms of very tangible value, and going beyond the traditional roles and professions that we see all around. So there's a whole lot of opportunity and optimism for the generations to come ahead.
Makes sense. I recently visited a Decathlon store, and there were nobody on the payment counter. So you can just make the payments via the app, scan, go out. And the only human touch that there was the guard who was checking that you've paid the invoice and everything. Like, I believe that that's also the future, that you walk into the shopping mall and you'll be able to shop everything, come out just by tapping your cards and everything. I'm pretty sure I'm going to spend a lot that way, but yeah, I hope that time comes soon. Now, to give a little more perspective to the viewers, I really want you to stress upon what is D2C. How would you define it for a, say, supposedly 10-15-year-old, and why is it the talk of the town?
Sure. So essentially, now if you look at India's retail industry, I think the biggest challenge, and if I had to quote data, what really brings in sales, there are a couple of factors. People would say the product is at the heart, right? But that has a correlation statistically of 0.4. Distribution has the highest correlation, which is 0.8, which means that if I have to rewind back and go 2 decades before, what was our usual buying behavior? If we had to buy a television, we would go to one of the central parts of the town. Even in tier 1 cities, there would be a big distributor, an electronics retailer, 1 or 2 in the city, and we would look at a television of a Sony or a Onida at that point in time. Look at it now. I think the ability of a manufacturer, small entrepreneur, or a new brand that comes in, the dependency to reach out to the consumers on the erstwhile distribution, which was largely an oligopoly of large FMCG brands, etc., has been completely disrupted. And that is the underlying reason of D2C, which is nothing but direct to consumer. And it says like that, which means that talk of a brand like Sleepy Owl, right? You think about an idea that a lot of people are interested in cold pressed coffee or juices or something that can be sold off the shelf. But rather than relying on big retailers who would partner with you so that your product is available on their shelf, Now you have a website and consumers are directly ordering. Fresh to home, you talked about milk basket, subscription programs. I think all of that is the ability of businesses to directly reach out to consumers, leveraging technology, making simple shop fronts over Shopify, Wix, Squarespace is now very easy. It's very self-server format. So all of these three things have happened in the country. One is higher penetration of mobile and internet. The technology SaaS ecosystem has developed so well that normal consumers are able to build their own websites, use analytics, more advanced cloud computing kind of platforms to basically further their business. And all that is bringing in power back to the entrepreneur and more so back to the consumer, which a larger variety of choices. So I think that's how a vibrant ecosystem is moving in. One example that I'll give you from an insight, which has come from pandemic. So when the pandemic started, we realized that at both Spencer's Retail and Nature's Basket, that a lot of senior citizens, and that's how you pick up a problem statement from consumers, is a lot of senior citizens may not be really comfortable ordering groceries on something like catalog e-commerce, right? So many pictures, so many things of on a catalog, which is like the Amazon style or the Crate style thing.
Yeah.
And that's when we realized that which is the platform where they are most comfortable at. And the top of mind is WhatsApp. There are 400 million Indians and senior citizens specifically forwarding messages every morning, and they're so connected and glued there.
Yeah.
So we launched a conversational AI product called Spencer's Grocery Assistant, which means just like another friend, you put in a text message of what you want over WhatsApp. It uses AI and ML to convert it to a normal order, gets delivered in 3 hours at your home. So that became a phenomenal up spike. So ideas like these, just as an example, which is a small problem of a consumer segment which is not solved, saying that I'm not comfortable going through catalogs as a senior citizen of so many fruits and vegetables. Why can't I just write text message and you order it to me? And that is fueling a lot of business propositions and value propositions that D2C brands are picking up. And with technology now, they have the capability and empowerment to directly reach to consumers and scale up. So that's really empowering.
Thank you so much for explaining. I think I am opening a D2C brand for sure. But okay, now you are one person who I have interviewed who has quoted states, facts, and whatnot. I really want to know, how much do you consume on an everyday basis? What is like your ideal me time, like where you're consuming all this and learning all this and just keeping up to date? What's your what's that segment? Because I understand your work segment and you're doing exceptionally well at it, but what's the ideal way that you consume everything? Is it via Netflix? Is it via books? Is it via certain blogs that you follow? Or what is it?
Okay, so let me put it this way. I think in current days and age, all of us are inundated by a lot of content, right?
Correct.
Each one of us. The only thing possibly I could look at is that I try and correlate, which essentially is whenever, and more so, it would happen to us. And I can imagine in next decade or so, the kind of content that would be thrown towards, right? And the average screen time, which has gone up 8x in the pandemic times. So all of that is the learning is, how do you try and make sense of what you are basically discovering, is to correlate it with things that you really find workable. And I think that's the only thing that I would want to leave the audiences with, saying that try and correlate the kind of information that comes into you, whether that makes sense to what you are trying to do or what possibly you'll pick it up the next time you attempt something.
Got it. And how do you so it's a very demanding job and your mind is always on the go. What next and what next? And you're trying to solve problems, find problems, solve them, and move to the next one. How do you ideally manage the work-life balance?
I think it's important. Okay, so let me first confess, I would hardly, or for me, let me admit that it's difficult to manage time. And I believe that there would be hardly any people who would be able to manage time. What you're able to basically do is prioritize things that you would want to do.
Correct.
And that's the best possible endeavor one can put. What essentially works for me is trying to switch off at the right time.
Okay.
It basically means that the level of engagement that you would have in any endeavor that you would pick up, there's a particular ROI on that, which means that it could be problem solving at a particular aspect or a function or things that you do in other parts of the day. And hence timing it in terms of switching it off at the right time and moving on to the next thing in terms of managing a productive level. I think that's what I do.
Got it.
And that's the only doable thing. Otherwise,
Yeah.
As professionals get more passionate, I think our involvement in things which are very unifocal gets too much, and hence it's important to come back and restart again. So that's what I.
Absolutely. I think as you grow in your career, you just have to go for ruthless prioritization, wherein you pick up things that are ultra super important for you, and then rest of the things come at the bottom. Makes sense. Now my next question is, doing all this, how did you come on LinkedIn? When did you stumble upon it? And what's the best part about the platform that you love or you would like to express?
I think all of these platforms, I would fall into the early adopter space. All of these, like I would be the early ones. I remember I made my first email ID on a Yahoo in 1995. So as long as that, I think I closely saw that transition from going to internet over a DOS platform and then finally discovering Windows and saying, oh, it all looks so graphical and so user friendly. So I think I discovered LinkedIn pretty early also, but I think LinkedIn to me has been one of the most vocal platforms in a very professional way that has built a community, not just in terms of aiding and facilitating networking, but I think LinkedIn consistently pushes the boundaries of thought leadership, which is a great thing for the professional people and for the next generation is picking up thought leadership, which basically pushes the kind of possibilities that are around them. It's in a sense it's a better exposure for the entire industry and community, saying that in a very isolated environment you would possibly have a certain limitation of how things would turn out, but over a community like LinkedIn where there is no limit or it's limitless in the way thought leadership goes on, you are picking up newer things and that basically takes your professional evolution to a next level. So I think it's a great platform from that standpoint. Though I personally believe the evolution has been rather slow over a period of time. Only recently, when you've seen a lot of newer products, and also at the people front, to a large extent, we have not explored LinkedIn too much, which means that even the possibility of content to disrupt over LinkedIn has not been explored to the depth like a YouTube or like any other social commerce.
Yes.
So we have only seen a part of it and explored a part of it as professionals, and that's basically the hitch. The millennials, the Gen Zs, they are more fluid in terms of producing content over other channels. So I think that hesitation on professionals and also has not pushed the boundaries of content. So that's there. But I think LinkedIn overall has gained a certain credibility over a period of time, which is reinforcing for the platform.
Absolutely. And when you say you made your first email ID in 1995, I was born in 1996. It just now blows my mind that all this exists, and now I feel evolution of internet has been slow. But anyways, yes, I think I've never seen somebody saying I want to become a LinkedIn influencer. It's always a YouTube influencer or an Instagram influencer. So I think, yes, people are still hesitant, though after the pandemic, the platform has exploded in terms of content creation, the amount of creators coming. All right. So for anybody who's watching this, who is primarily wanting to be the next Harshvardhan or wants to get in the retail segment or marketing, do you have any tip for them on how to leverage LinkedIn or how to network on LinkedIn?
I think three things, and let me put it this way. You would not want to become the next Harshvardhan. I think the best thing that you would be is the next you. That's what everybody would want, and that's the best thing. I think bring in a lot of authenticity. That's most important, which basically means that whatever your core purpose you have figured out, things that really excite you, things that you like doing, very purposefully keep consistently pushing it, and that would make you reach somewhere in a very, very unique way. So there are no precedents for that matter, and I would very strongly say, especially for the newer generations, is that the first thing that you would do is not look at any precedent, because the sheer way with which you would solve a lot of problems would be the newer way. And hence being authentic in the way you are and being expressive is the first advice. Second is the possibilities are immense, which means that if you look at the top 10 list of YouTubers globally, the most influential ones, there's a kid who rules that top 10 list, right? Which is, I think it's Ryan's Toys World or Toys Review kind of website. So I'm just coming back to the same point, is that the possibilities with which you could really push the boundaries of the status quo are really immense. So it's more important to find something which you like doing, which you're passionate about, which is your purpose, rather than any other precedent. So that's the first advice. Second, on LinkedIn, I think in pandemic, people have explored the limitations and the form factor of content much more than ever before on LinkedIn. Also, LinkedIn is also trying to experiment a lot of things, whether it is story or different posts, or a different look for people who are more on the creative side of content, creative view for their pages, etc. So a lot of these features have allowed content creators to not look at it as a very static platform, because they had more fluidity when they were looking at other social commerce platforms rather than LinkedIn. But LinkedIn is allowing that to become. Also, as a society, I think we are getting chips off our shoulder gradually, where in a professional environment you would behave in a certain particular way. I think even now professionals are losing that rigidity, and they're more open towards sharing, more open towards networking, or also producing content on their own. So that part of the change on the content production side is also coming in. So there's a whole lot of things, I think, but still at the level at which the content has engaged at the social commerce end, how it has done on professional network sites, there's a huge gap there. So a lot of possibilities for professional networking to push content boundaries again. So that would be my take.
All right. Okay. And that makes me move to the rapid fire section. Are you ready?
Absolutely.
All right. What's one book or something that you consumed recently that you would want our viewers to definitely consume, or has changed your perspective in any way?
Two books. One is Daniel Kahneman, Thinking Fast and Slow. That is a recommended one. And the other thing is an MIT professor who wrote his last book, which is called The Last Lecture. I believe it's a great book, short read, but full of life lessons. He was diagnosed with cancer, and he fought that very strongly, and ultimately penned his all life learnings in a small book, The Last Lecture. So I think that's a great book.
Wow, definitely reading this one. All right. So as an early adopter of LinkedIn, what do you think has made the LinkedIn the platform so cool right now these days? Like, people are actually hopping onto it and trying to build their personal brand and everything. What do you think they've changed that has made people think that it's not just for hiring or getting hired?
I think the way even the professional community has accepted and tried to leverage the platform has evolved over a period of time. Earlier it was only professionals who were trying to put in their profiles, which was a very static way for the platform to grow. But over a period of time, there has been a network effect, which means more brands and recruiters have come in, since more candidates or professionals have come in. But now the third wave of LinkedIn is there, which is more engagement towards content. And I think that's the third wave of LinkedIn evolution we are getting into, and there's much more to come. So one thing that has really worked for the community is the credibility that it has gained. On the other side, for users, it's the sheer access that they get to a global professional community, and I think the ease to connect and ease to work has really been phenomenal. And the share oligopoly, I think that's there in the market, or even the adoption that the platform has taken up. So I think that there's a critical mass effect also. But overall, the engagement levels from a content factor, as we picked up, are yet to reach to a level where we see the version 4 or the wave 4 of LinkedIn disruption in
All
future.
right. Got it. And if there's a piece of advice that you could give to any D2C or wannabe D2C founder watching this, what would it be?
I think be audacious, be bold, let your brand do all the talking, and consumers are, which I can vouch for, are more accepting than you think for a new brand in the current day and time. So the world is full of opportunity, and I sincerely believe D2C entrepreneurs in next 10 years will bring in a whole lot of economic push to the entire ecosystem.
All right. If you had to choose between the two, what would you? Marketing over a normal product that can be made better, or a great product but really bad marketing? Like if you had to just choose one of them, what would?
I think product is at the heart of everything. You should always focus at building a great product. Marketing, if it's great, it would be just tactical. But I think there is no substitute of having a world-class product and something that really solves very authentically for consumers. I think that remains at the heart of it.
Okay. And if I had to tell you to choose between LinkedIn and Twitter, what would you pick?
I would pick up LinkedIn.
Wow. And my last question is, what's one quote or sentence that keeps you going?
I think be consistent.
All right. That was by far one of the most knowledgeable interviews that I've taken. Thank you so much, Harshvardhan, for joining us. We're obliged to host you. And this was amazing.
Thanks a lot, Unnati. I'm really excited and honored to be here. And I like the initiative that you've taken at Story. It's one of the very initial moves of taking the content to the next level in terms of engagement over LinkedIn. And I believe that you have a great opportunity as a first mover there. So best of luck, and I wish you all the success in your initiative and venture.